So imagine a king who is just so completely terrified of a prophecy that he locks his only daughter in this sunken bronze vault underground.
Right, like no doors, no windows.
Exactly, just a tiny slit to the sky. He really thinks he's outsmarted fate, but instead he just hands the king of the gods the perfect target. So, welcome to today's deep dive. For you listening, we're exploring a really fascinating anomaly in ancient Greek mythology today.
Yeah, we're looking at a story that completely abandons that usual Greek formula, where it's all about overwhelming brute strength and raw muscle.
Yeah, and instead it functions almost exactly like a fairy tale.
It really does.
We're pulling from Edith Hamilton's classic text, Mythology, and she brings in these ancient heavyweight poets, primarily Apollodorus and Ovid.
And that contrast between the two sources actually gives the narrative a lot of its structural charm.
Oh, for sure.
Because Apollodorus gives us this very clean, straightforward account of the plot. But Ovid, on the other hand, well, Ovid never saw a detail. He didn't want to expand into a massive epic. I mean, later in this very story, a sea serpent gets killed, and Hamilton points out that Ovid takes a staggering 100 lines of poetry just to describe the monster dying.
Which is just classic Ovid. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to look at the story of Perseus. We want to see how humanity's attempt to cheat fate usually ends up, creating the exact tools of their own destruction.
Yeah.
And it all starts in the city of Argos with King Acrisius. He has this beautiful daughter named Danae, but no sons. So he's frustrated, goes to the oracle at Delphi, hoping for some good news about a male heir.
And the priestess at Delphi delivers a uniquely horrifying prophecy. She basically tells Acrisius, you will never have a son, but your daughter Danae will have a boy, and that specific boy is destined to kill you.
Wow. Which, for an ancient king, is just a profound crisis.
Exactly. And the obvious, brutal solution back then would be to simply execute his daughter and, erase the threat entirely.
Right, but I know he chooses not to do that. But what is his actual motivation? Because it clearly isn't paternal affection. The lengths he goes to are basically psychological torture.
Yeah, the text explicitly states his affection for Danae was not strong. His motivation is just pure, unadulterated terror of the divine. He's specifically terrified of the Furies.
Oh, right.
Because in the Greek pantheon, the gods visit these terrible, inescapable punishments on anyone who sheds the blood of their own kindred. So Acrisius is trying to find, a technical loophole.
A loophole in divine law.
Yes. He wants to eliminate the threat without technically committing murder.
So his bright idea is to build a house made entirely of bronze, sink it underground, and lock Danae inside. He leaves only a partial roof open to the sky for some light and air, puts her under heavy guard, and basically calls it a day.
Yeah.
He actually believes he's insulated himself from destiny. It's like trying to avoid a movie spoiler. And in doing so, you accidentally read the entire plot summary.
That's a great way to put it. He assumes human engineering can block divine will. But that open roof is his undoing. By leaving a gap for the sky, he leaves a gap for the ruler of the sky.
Ah, right. Zeus.
Zeus visits Danae in the form of a shower of gold pouring directly into that bronze chamber, which eventually leads to the birth of Perseus.
And Danae manages to hide the baby in this cramped underground vault for a little while. But, a toddler in a bronze room isn't exactly stealthy.
No, not at all.
Acrisius discovers his grandson, completely panics, and refuses to believe Zeus is the father. All he sees is his own death sentence just crawling around on the floor.
But his fundamental problem hasn't changed, right? He still can't take a sword to the boy without bringing the Furies down on his head.
So he doubles down on that twisted logic.
He really does. He has his men build this massive, heavily crafted wooden chest. He forces his daughter and the infant into this box, nails the lid shut, hauls it out to the sea, and just casts it into the waves.
Okay, wait, I need to push back on this logic for a second. If you're terrified of the gods punishing you for killing your family, how do you possibly convince yourself that nailing them in a coffin and tossing it into the ocean keeps your hands clean? The intent is entirely murderous.
It's ancient plausible deniability. In his mind, the Furies operate on strict technicalities. If he uses a sword, he sheds family blood. But if he puts them in a box and the ocean drowns them, well, the elements are the murderers, not him.
Wow.
He's outsourcing the execution to nature. And Hamilton includes this fragment from a 6th century lyric poet named Simonides that really captures the visceral horror of this.
That poem is devastating. For you listening,
Right.
Imagine being in her position. It puts you right inside that pitch black, tossing wooden chest.
Yeah, the sensory details are incredible.
Right. Danae is surrounded by the roar of the scudding waves and the shrill wind, fully expecting the water to breach the wood at any second. And meanwhile, little Perseus is fast asleep, bundled in his red cloak, completely oblivious to the fact that his grandfather just threw him away.
And, surviving that oceanic ordeal is really the first quiet miracle of the story. They eventually wash ashore on a small island, still sealed in the chest.
Thank goodness for Dictys.
Exactly. A local fisherman named Dictys discovers the box, breaks it open, and pulls them out. He and his wife actually adopt Danae and Perseus, raising the boy in this humble, peaceful environment.
But surviving the sea was really just a geographical escape. Perseus couldn't escape the fact that, as a powerless refugee, he was the perfect target for a local tyrant. The peaceful life shatters when Perseus reaches adulthood, all thanks to the ruler of the island, Polydectes, who just happens to be the brother of the kind fisherman, Dictys.
Right, and Polydectes is the dark mirror to his brother. Where Dictys is nurturing, Polydectes is cruel, arrogant, manipulative. He develops this obsession with Danae and decides he wants her.
There's a problem.
Yeah, her fiercely protective, full-grown son. Polydectes knows he can't just assassinate Perseus without causing an uproar, so he engineers a social trap.
Here's where it gets really interesting. He announces he's getting married to another woman, throws a massive pre-wedding celebration, and deliberately invites Perseus. Now, custom dictates that every guest must present a gift to the bride-to-be.
And Perseus is a destitute fisherman.
Right. He shows up to a palace surrounded by wealthy aristocrats, holding absolutely nothing. If you've ever been the broke friend at a luxury destination wedding, you know that blinding embarrassment. You just want the floor to swallow you whole.
Polydectes weaponized Perseus' youth and pride against him. He orchestrated a scenario for public humiliation.
And Perseus overcompensates wildly. Out of sheer panic, he stands up in front of the entire laughing court and declares he will bring the king a present better than any horse or jewel. He promises to bring back the head of the Gorgon, Medusa.
Which is the exact verbal trap Polydectes was waiting for. I mean, proposing to kill a Gorgon is practically a suicide note.
Yeah.
The text points out no man in his senses would make such a claim. The Gorgons are these monstrous sisters with wings, golden scales, writhing snakes for hair.
And that gaze.
Yes, their most lethal attribute. Anyone who looks directly at a Gorgon is instantly turned to solid stone. No mortal man relying on physical prowess could survive that. This is where the fairy tale nature of the myth kicks in. Perseus has taken on an impossible task, so he needs fairy godmothers.
Right, and Perseus realizes his mistake almost immediately. He runs off on pure, desperate adrenaline. He hits dead ends at Delphi and Dodona.
Oh, Dodona, where the Seti live. Hamilton notes they make their bread from acorns, which shows just how far off the mapped world he is. Acorn eating symbolizes deep antiquity before cultivated agriculture.
So he's truly at the edge of the world, and that's when the supernatural intervention arrives. Hermes and Athena.
Yeah, Hermes appears as this radiant young man with winged sandals, a winged hat, and a golden wand. He tells Perseus he needs specialized equipment from the nymphs of the north, but to find them, he has to consult the Grey Women.
And this journey is wild. Hermes leads him to this twilight land where the sun and moon never shine. And they find these three withered creatures. They look like gray swans, but beneath their wings, they have human arms and hands.
It's deeply unsettling, especially their defining feature. The three sisters share a single eye. They take turns plugging it into their foreheads, and during that brief moment when one hands it to the next, all three are totally blind. It's a powerful metaphor for humanity's fragmented vision of the unknown.
So Hermes lays out a heist. Perseus waits in the gloom for the exact moment the eyeball is in transit, rushes out and snatches it. He holds their only source of sight hostage for directions to the nymphs of the north.
And they cave immediately. The directions lead him to the Hyperboreans, a country at the back of the north wind. And the contrast here is amazing. He goes from this miserable twilight to a joyful society that's constantly banqueting.
Yeah, and they actually paused their party to give him the three magical items. He gets the winged sandals,
right,
a magic wallet that automatically resizes to fit whatever's inside, and a cap of invisibility. Plus, Hermes gives him an unbreakable sword, and Athena gives him a highly polished bronze shield.
He's essentially a one-man supernatural armory, but, the equipment alone doesn't guarantee victory. He still faces the biological threat of the Gorgon's gaze.
And that's the mechanical problem I struggle with. Think about the physical logistics here. If the unbreakable sword requires close-quarters combat, how does he get close enough to use it without making eye contact and turning into a garden statue?
Well, Athena's bronze shield solves that. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is really an intellectual victory. She instructs him to use the polished surface as a mirror.
Oh, okay.
He looks only at the reflection. By filtering the monster's image through the divine bronze, he neutralizes the curse.
That's brilliant. So he flies over the ocean, finds the terrible sisters fast asleep. He hovers above them, staring intently into the reflection. Athena physically guides his hand. He swings the sword, severs Medusa's neck, and drops the head into that resizing magic wallet.
And it's vital to note that Medusa is the only mortal Gorgon. If he struck the others, he would have died. The beheading wakes the immortal sisters, and they take to the air searching for the killer.
But he's got the cap of darkness on.
Exactly. He's completely invisible. He flies away safely, carrying the most dangerous biological weapon in the ancient world.
Zipped up in a magic bag.
Yeah.
So he starts heading home, but gets diverted over Ethiopia. And he acts as this bizarre, divine equalizer. He sees this beautiful princess, Andromeda, chained to a rock, waiting to be eaten by a massive sea serpent.
Right, and this is collateral damage from her mother's hubris. Queen Cassiopeia boasted she was more beautiful than the daughters of the sea god.
Which is the absolute fastest way to guarantee a catastrophe in Greek mythology.
Oh, the gods view arrogance as an intolerable disruption of the natural hierarchy. The sea gods send this serpent to ravage the coast, and the oracle says sacrificing the princess is the only way to appease the waters.
But Perseus falls in love at first sight. Doesn't even hesitate. He dives down on his winged sandals, uses the unbreakable sword to behead the sea serpent, just like he did the Gorgon, rescues the girl, and marries her.
It's a textbook hero's rescue. But it's really just a warm-up for the domestic crisis waiting for him at home. He returns to his island, expecting to celebrate, but Dictys and Danae are missing.
Because King Polydectes had grown tired of waiting. Danae kept refusing to marry him, and he got so furious that she and Dictys had to flee to a local temple for sanctuary. Perseus learns Polydectes is hosting this massive banquet at the palace, surrounded by his cruel aristocrats.
So Perseus walks directly into the banquet hall. Picture this lone young man stepping into a room full of hostile courtiers. He draws everyone's gaze, and before anyone can process it, he reaches into the bag and pulls out the Gorgon's head.
And the effect is instantaneous. Yeah. Every single one of them is petrified, frozen, stiff in the exact attitude they had struck when they first looked at him. So my question is, so what does this all mean? Isn't Perseus basically just casually using a weapon of mass destruction to settle a local political dispute?
This raises an important question. It definitely seems disproportionate to a modern sensibility, but in the context of the myth, it functions as a divine balancing force. Okay.
Polydectes used his unchecked power to terrorize the vulnerable. Perseus uses a terrifying absolute power to instantly correct that imbalance. He's acting as an agent restoring moral order against unchecked arrogance, paving the way for Dictys to be crowned king.
That makes sense. But having cleaned house, Perseus still has one monumental piece of unfinished business, the original prophecy. He, Danae, and Andromeda journey back to Argos to try and reconcile with his grandfather, Acrisius.
But when they arrive, Acrisius is nowhere to be found. He'd been driven out of the city. While waiting, Perseus hears about an athletic contest in a northern city called Larissa and decides to enter.
Right, and during the discus event, Perseus hurls the heavy bronze disc and something inexplicable happens. The missile swerves wildly, crashes into the crowd, and fatally strikes a spectator.
And that random spectator who is killed instantly is King Acrisius. He just happened to be visiting the king of Larissa on that exact day.
That's a cosmic trick shot. The gods literally curve the discus midair just to make sure the prophecy hits its mark. It perfectly ties the whole narrative together. Despite all the magical wallets, invisible caps, and fairy tale detours, the foundational rule of Greek myth remains absolute. No one escapes fate.
Wow.
Apollo's oracle from the very beginning is perfectly fulfilled.
But the text does grant Perseus a relatively happy ending. He and Andromeda live happily ever after. He gives the magic gear back to the gods, and Medusa's head goes to Athena, who puts it on Zeus's shield, the Aegis.
We really trace an incredible arc here, from a terrified human trying to outsmart the universe in a bronze vault, to a hero whose story blends fairy tale charm with the brutal inevitability of Greek destiny.
So as we wrap up this deep dive for you listening, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. The whole epic kicks off because King Acrisius desperately tries to dodge his predicted death by putting his grandson in a chest. But consider this. What if Acrisius had just accepted it and raised the boy lovingly in the palace?
That's the ultimate paradox.
Exactly. Perseus might never have gone on a quest to become a supernaturally strong hero. Was it simply the prophecy that killed Acrisius, or did his own terrified actions forge the very athlete who possessed the power to accidentally throw that fatal discus?
It leaves you wondering who really threw that discus, the young hero or fate itself.
Absolutely. Thanks for diving in with us today.